Anyway, straight from Texas, we've got Brenda Newby. She's a
Hello.
ghost investigator and MUFON investigator. So we got all kinds of stuff to talk about.
We do, and I can talk. I can talk with the best of them, I tell you.
That sounds terrible. Who wants to hear people talk on a podcast? That's not how we do this. Well, let's since I haven't had a UFO episode in a while, I know you've got your ghost investigation in your town as well.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about the MUFON stuff that's been happening lately. You kind of touched on that beforehand.
Boy, I tell you, I was tickled today
News
because there's been some frustration with a lot of us who are investigators of the UFO phenomenon, and we're running down reports all the time. I will tell you, reports had increased, so I know the word was getting out there. But, for a long time, it was only being run on conservative media. And from what I understand is David Grush, it's like, where do we start? Start from the beginning. I guess what I'm trying to say was only run with like one genre of media. And like a lot of the other news outlets weren't running it. And I'm thinking this should be like headline news everywhere. Why is it not? But I was pleased today because I do a daily search for UFO or UAP news. ABC and NBC are starting to run segments now. So it's starting to break into other areas of media. So it's reaching a wider audience. And that is news of what I truly believe is a true disclosure by our government that says we are not alone.
That's what it sounds like. I saw NPR had one today, or not today, but last week.
Who did?
NPR? You usually don't have anything like that.
Awesome.
I get those same Google alerts too.
Oh, do you? Okay. Well, I kind of do a deep dive. I've got several resources that I go through and check, and that's kind of the top of my list, especially my YouTube. Anytime one of the media outlets is reporting on a UAP or UFO case, that it's top of my YouTube every day, so I can kind of keep up with it that way. That's the easiest for me. But it just seems like we have reached. In 2017 is when they meaning the Pentagon or Department of Defense released a series of videos that there were 3 videos at that time. They had been leaked to the New York Times, these videos, by former National Security Advisor, retired Christopher Lemon. I mean, this guy had clearances upon clearances upon clearances. And he knew that by going forward and leaking these to the Times and them being able to validate them, that he could actually get them out there and he could hold the Pentagon's feet to the fire, so to speak, in saying that they didn't understand it. Well, the public and Congress wanted to know more. So there were certain members of Congress that kind of put up a fight and said, you can't just throw this out there and then say, oh, well, it travels 30 times faster than the speed of sound, and we have no clue what it is. We know it's not a foreign adversary, but there you go. That's what we got. So since that time, it seems like the momentum has built and built and built and built. And most recently, it's been about, and stop me at any moment because I can get long-winded, so feel free to jump in there.
Oh, I'm just enjoying it. My coffee.
Good, but I don't want to bore anybody. So I'm trying to stick to the highlights, and each one has important components to it. So I won't bore you unless you ask.
It's a good little refresher course you're giving, because I tend to forget the years too.
Oh yeah, it's been that long, 2017, and so Congress kind of came out. It was the House Intelligence Committee. They came out, and I forget the congressman's name. I'm so embarrassed that I forgot his. Mark Rubio. It was Mark Rubio that stepped forward and said,
"It was.
We need to know. We need to know a little bit more about that." And the report that they brought to us was really kind of like, you're not telling us much. They had like 80 cases at that time that they couldn't identify. And there were several characteristics about these particular anomalous. Now they've redubbed it. They were calling it UFOs, but that apparently is not sexy enough for our government.
Not politically correct.
Or it's too sexy for them, in other words. Really.
Yeah.
They call them UAPs. At first they called that unidentified or unknown aerial phenomenon, but they've since changed that to unidentified or unknown anomalous phenomenon.
Oh, I didn't know they changed it.
Yes, one of the characteristics of these particular craft that they're seeing is that they can travel through space atmosphere, our atmosphere, and water. So these things, and especially a report that was released last month by about 30 different border and custom patrol agents, they released 10 videos. And one of these was a video at La Aqua, I think, Puerto Rico, in which the pilot, and this is thermal video. This is not just somebody shooting with their cell phone. This is thermal, high technology, infrared video. This pilot in this jet is filming this. You can't see my fingers, but it's filming this object that's flying at a high rate of speed over the airport of Puerto Rico. Been there many times, so I can actually see it in my head. And then it dips, it goes towards the beach, it dips into the ocean. And this thing is traveling so fast. I can't even explain to you how fast it's going. It's booking like nothing we know. It goes into the water, and then a couple seconds later, it comes back up. It loses no speed, and it's not one object, it's now two objects. And this was just last month this was released.
Really? I haven't even seen that.
Yeah, actually, this film, believe it or not, it was released originally, I think, in 2018, and then it was put back underground, and they didn't say anything about it. It was like here one day, gone the next, but it's been re-released. And there's another one that is engaging with a fighter jet in this series of videos. So there are some pretty bold things that have come out with this. And this is Custom and Border Patrol, that are sending these in. But that was last month. And then the month before that, we had a whistleblower that came forward. And that was one reason why I think it was in the conservative news media so fast, was because he had to find one of the media facets that were able to get it out a little more hastily. And I think some of your typical mainstream media were just kind of dragging their feet a little bit, fact checking and doing all of that. And there's nothing at any point that I felt like was misrepresented by the news media, because they did tell it as this is a hearsay story. But what happened was this gentleman came forward. His name is David Grush. Yep. He is extraordinarily well-spoken, smart, high clearance officer. And he worked for Arrow, which is an organization that the Pentagon has developed. It's basically the UAP task force. So he had people that were coming to him saying, listen, David, we have actual craft, and we're talking about dozens of craft. And we've had those craft. And some of them we have had since the 50s and 60s. Some of the data we've had since the 20s, since around, World War II and all of it. So, I mean, we're talking about decades long covered up. They also have what he has very carefully termed biologics.
That's what that was the word I was trying to think of that David Grush always said. Biologics. Somebody said it could have been a fish. I don't know.
It could have been, but I have a tendency to think that that was the only term he could get away with and still honor his top secret clearance.
Biologics.
Yeah. And it never stated whether they were dead or alive. They did an actual hearing. Okay, so let me just kind of go through the latest stuff real quickly. Back about 6 or 7 months ago, there was I was trying to get my facts straight here. I'm gonna keep on task with this whistleblower. Right, so it's been a couple months ago that the whistleblower came forward. He wanted to get his name in the media as quickly as he possibly could because he was fearful that they were going to hurt him. Apparently, from what I've read, the man and his wife had their home broken into several times, had their family threatened, and he felt like if he wasn't public and didn't have his face forward to the public, that he could easily disappear and nobody would question a thing.
It's kind of like Bob Lazar.
Yes, exactly like Bob Lazar. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the things that David Grush is saying back up Bob Lazar 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So
very similar in some of the things.
Extraordinarily similar. Now he had a congressional hearing with 2 other witnesses. One was Lieutenant Graves, and the other was, I believe his first name's Randy, Sergeant Randy, or Colonel Randy. Is it Frazier? I believe it's Frazier. They were both witnesses on the Fravor was his name.
You're talking about David Fravor?
Yeah, David Fravor. Yeah, okay. Thank you. He actually was a fighter pilot. And I mean, this guy was like Blue Angels. And I mean, he went to Top Gun Academy. He's a stunt pilot, you know.
Yeah,
even to the point.
He said, you remember Top Gun? He goes, I was Top Gun.
Yes, he was Top Gun. He actually engaged one of these UAPs, and it fit into that category of he saw it move through water and air and space. Plus, he was the one that saw what is commonly known as the Tic Tac video. He saw a Tic Tac. I don't think it was the same one video, but he did see a Tic Tac. And he said it was like a ping pong ball. If you took a ping pong ball and you dropped it on a table and it went bing, 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 bing. Well, that's another 2 characteristics of these craft that the government are using to identify them as UAPs as opposed to, man-made craft, is that they have high velocities and they have like a quick stop-start capacity. So they travel at amazing speeds and at a capacity that is so fast it would crush a human being.
Oh, yeah. They said he turned a person to mush.
Yes.
Yes,
you just implode.
Can you imagine? It'd be like being in 15 car wrecks at the same time.
Oh, gosh, it should be worse than that. I'd rather be sucked into a wormhole. But, the thing about it is we don't have anything that can do that. None of our enemies have anything that can do that. Do you not think that would be in our face every day if our enemies had that capacity?
Yeah, I think they would use it already. They don't have enough discretion.
Yeah, absolutely. Putin would be all in that.
Yeah.
President Xi would be all in that. And
imagine if North Korea got a hold of it.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, little man with a big scary ship.
Little rocket man.
Yeah. Fravor was there to testify about what he saw, and I wish that I had my notes in front of me because there were some questions that they asked all 3 of these guys, and one of the questions was, does the American public need to know about this? Yes. Is there anything to do? Is there anything that we could do to stop this? And it was categorically, no, we're not going to stop this. We cannot defend ourselves. These beings, these craft, whatever, they would come to Earth, do their business, and be gone before we'd even register them. They're that fast. And, you know, they asked Fravor, did you feel like you could defend yourself? He said no. He said no. And then the other gentleman that was there, and this was like a 2-hour hearing, two and a half hour hearing. I highly recommend you at least go back and get the highlights of it, if nothing else. But he was on the Princeton, the USS Princeton, Lieutenant Graves was. And he was the actual radar operator. And what he was seeing, Fravor Fravor only saw one object, but there were actually fleets of hundreds of these objects. And they were moving off the coast of California down to the Catalina Islands. And they're the Catalina Islands, which happens to be an enormous hotspot for UFO, UAP activity. They were disappearing as if just vanishing. And we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of these craft at a time being tracked on radar. So you've got them tracked on radar, on the USS Princeton ship, on thermal camera, and then you have trained observationists who are seeing them. Plus, then you have this guy who's been threatened within an inch of his life and actually claimed to know that people's deaths had been caused. Now, a lot of stuff he wouldn't talk to outside of a skiff. And for those of our listeners who may or may not understand what a skiff is a secured, compartmentalized information facility. And a lot of times what they do is they take you out over like water even. They take you like into a room. You relinquish your cell phones, your Fitbit, the whole 9 yards. You go into this little area and they have that area set up so that nothing can get out, nothing can be heard. You know, there's white noise being played. You know, you're above water and you're in a sealed container, so nothing can be heard inside or outside. It is where it's stuff that's more important than what the Gang of Eight can know. So that's what a skiff is. So there were a lot of things that he would not talk about outside of a skiff. And that tells us that anytime he said, you know, when they said, do you believe that someone was killed as a result of divulging too much information, he would simply say, I have spoke to anyone that I need to speak to about that, and I wouldn't feel comfortable giving any further information outside of a skiff. So the answer there is yes. I mean, we can pretty much draw that conclusion. Don't you agree?
Yeah, skiff. If he was trying to keep his clearance, definitely the skiff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It definitely means that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't just about keeping his clearance, it's about him not being prosecuted for not keeping his clearance, because he was gone, you know, but they have a certain amount of years that they have to be quiet about that.
Usually it's a lifetime for those guys.
Yeah.
That kind of NDA.
Absolutely. That's why we get a lot of deathbed confessions about this sort of stuff. You know, was it Brazel was it Roswell, that rancher at Roswell? You know, he spoke on his grave and spoke to his family on his grave. Because, you know, this is the kind of stuff that you talk about on your grave. Because, you know, they can't do anything to you at that point. You're untouchable, but you still feel like the rest of the world needs to know.
Yeah.
And just lately, Adam Schiff and another gentleman, his name escapes me. First of all, the one thing I want to say is I'm a big watcher of politics. I'm fascinated by them. I love to watch them. And we've not been able to get on the same page for shit. Can I cuss on your podcast?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I didn't even register.
Get our shit together for the last 8 years, 10 years, maybe even longer than that on anything. But man, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents alike, they have all converged on this issue. So if it's a Democrat fighting for one anything, there's a Republican backing them up and vice versa. And it's good to see because it has gotten such a bipartisanship, even though there are still a lot of people who are talking and saying you need to shut this shit show down. Those that are speaking out, they feel empowered enough to speak out because there's power in numbers, right?
It's kind of scary when they start agreeing on something because then it's like, what are you trying to hide?
Yeah. Well, it's just,
why do you care so much?
Yeah, it kind of shakes you and think, well, if we're going to get it together on anything, this needs to be it.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about our government. I'm talking about all of us, the world. All of our leaders need to realize that and they are. This is not just our country that are kind of going through this existential crisis with the fact that we're being visited and who knows what much more that we don't know yet by extraterrestrial craft or extraterrestrial beings. The whole world is watching this. And oh man, there's just so much. So anyhow, Adam Schiff and a Republican in the Senate, they have gotten together and they put together a few contingencies, I guess you'll call them, in the new budget for the Department of Defense, and said, we're not going to release this money unless, and they're using the old JFK laws of disclosure, if evidence is more than 25 years old, it needs to be released to the general public unless the actual president of the United States looks at it and can make a clear argument for why it is a threat to national security if it's released, which would mean ways and means. They have got to, it's got to be divulging ways, and it's ways that we get information. It's got to be divulging who is delivering that information. What kind of espionage are we using? And the second is that they cannot classify UAP information unless they are able to come to the Gang of Eight and state precisely why it needs to be classified. The Gang of Eight, for our listeners who may or may not use, some people have heard that term. I
forgot.
That's okay. That's okay, because it's not a term you hear very much.
I've heard it, but I never knew what anybody was talking about.
No, that's okay. It's the head. I keep up with that stuff just for these moments. They are the heads of each major committee, like your oversight committee, your intelligence committee, your armed forces committee, all of that. They're the heads, or the it's not called the president. I can't remember, but they're like the leaders, like the chairman. Chairman, thank you.
Yeah, chairman of the
committee. So just the people that need to know, and they can make a decision over whether a document needs to be classified or not, or what the best way to proceed with certain things is. So that's what the Gang of Eight is.
That makes sense.
And because Congress has, they all have top secret disclosures. I mean, like top compartmentalized secret disclosures. So, or at least the heads of the Gang of Eight do. Now, that's all good and fine, but the committee, the oversight committee, they are responsible for making sure that our government is not keeping things from the American people, and that our government is that all of our bodies are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, in line with what the Constitution says they need to be doing, what the laws say they need to be doing. So that was the group. It's led by a Republican. I have to excuse my dogs in the back. I have 3 very vicious rat terriers.
It sound like you may need some help getting evacuated.
Yeah, they're a mess. Anyhow, they make sure that everybody is playing by the rules the way they're supposed to be. And so they were the ones that held this last meeting with David Grush and Graves and Fravor.
When was that meeting with Fravor and Rush?
That has been about 2 months ago.
Because I knew about Grush, but I didn't know Fravor was in there with him.
Yeah, no, it was actually a hearing. It was a hearing, and the whole
But that was
point
good.
was for them to be more transparent. Well, what was funny about it is, so get this. They were asking. This started when. I'm sorry. Sometimes it takes me a second to come up with the names. My short-term memory is what. His name will come to me here in just a second. Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz was approached by someone, and he was told about this incident that happened at one of the recent air bases where there was a UAP sighting, some missiles had been shut down, some nuclear missiles had been shut down. You know, you hear that story a lot about them interfering with missile technology, nuclear missile technology. And so he contacted the Pentagon and he said, I've been asked to look into this. I've been asked to look at the funding and this, that, and the other. Well, him and Representative Luna, I don't remember where she is a House member out of, but she's feisty. She wants, they all want answers. And then this gentleman, Burchett, I think he's from Tennessee. He's just kind of a good old Republican from Tennessee, kind of, with his drawl and friendly. He, the three of them went down there being told that they were going to be given access in a skiff to information about the UAPs and that they would be allowed to interview some of the people who witnessed this incident at this Air Force base or at this nuclear air base. Well, when they got there, he said that they gave him important information that he felt like they needed to know, but it had nothing to do with UAPs, and that they were denied access to the pilots that had reported it. And they were told under no uncertain terms by this general that they weren't going to get that information they came looking for. Well, let's just say, lo and behold, before they left that meeting, they had the information they were looking for, and my phone, and they had been able to interview a pilot. That's how they had the hearing. And then after that, they were told they could not have any further access to a skiff for this purpose by the Department of Defense. This is Congress. This is Congress, the Oversight Committee being denied. The Oversight Committee being told, no, we don't have to tell you that. Yeah, it's the Oversight Committee. But they were also told that they would not support any further interviews or any further hearings on the matter.
It just goes so deep that they can do stuff like that.
It goes so incredibly deep. And don't let me forget to tell you about the balloons we shot down too.
Oh yeah,
that's a whole nother.
That was a weird couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, one weekend we shot down a lot of crap.
Yeah, it was.
Anyhow, sorry, I was on track and I kind of lost a little bit. I'm glad you pre-record this. Maybe you can get rid of my well, they're not senior moments yet, but I'm getting there.
That's just what I put. I put these on TikTok.
Oh, you do?
Those are the good ones.
That's nice. That's very nice.
No, only if it's funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So they came out with their own amendment that they were not going to be able to get funding unless. And so they are making not only the government and the Pentagon responsible for the money that they're asking for, because apparently the Pentagon cannot account for 50% of the money it's been lent every year. That's just kind of the gold standard with the Pentagon.
It
And I
checks
can
out.
see how some of that money wouldn't be disclosed, but they are requiring disclosure of money they receive and send to private corporations.
Mm-hmm.
Because according to Grush, that is how all of this is getting funded for the most part, is by places like, Skunk Works and maybe
Lockheed.
a guy that we know, Bigelow.
Yep.
I don't know if you've heard about all his stuff in there, but Bigelow
Oh,
and
yeah.
Skunk Works, I'm sure, are right up there. Although I think he wants the public to know, but he still is going to play by the rules of what the Department of Defense wants.
Oh, yeah.
They're who's paying him, right? But anyhow, yeah, it's a lot of these private companies are actually sending the money, but it is not in the Pentagon's best interest to disclose this. Number one, there's some way they're getting paid off of it. There's some way they're making money off of it, because that is always number one. Number two, the Pentagon, Department of Defense, doesn't want to tell the American public, we don't know what the hell to do. We don't know what they are. We have no control over them. You know,
that's this. Is that scary though to you? I don't think it is.
I don't know enough yet. I don't know enough yet to be scared.
That doesn't worry me, the fact that we don't have control over them. Like, I never thought we would have.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I agreed with that too. And I think if they were going to harm us, they would have.
Yeah, they've had plenty of time.
Yeah, and there have been situations where, I know of people personally that were fighter pilots that have engaged in UAPs.
I figure it's most of them, isn't it? Like they say, everybody says it. You just don't talk about it.
Well, that's actually something else I want to talk about, because that with those 3 craft that we brought down, they're surrounding that Chinese air balloon.
Yeah.
There was an incident there. So anyhow, basically, to sum up this new bill, this Burkett bill, it is tightening and making more narrow what Schumer and his counterparts bill are doing. So it's like there's 2 bills floating around out there, one in the House and one in the Senate, and it's both on the same kind of release. You've got to have a reason, a national security reason for classifying it, and you've got to release it after 25 years. So there you go. But this new one that's been introduced, this new bill or this new proposal that's been introduced, is just basically going to prevent them from being able to jump through certain loopholes. So let's cross our fingers and see what happens come funding time.
That's so frustrating, because it's almost like they've disclosed it, but they haven't.
Yeah.
It's like they've done everything but say it. Like, what would people do if they just said, okay, if they did affirm it but don't show any pictures?
Well, because then and that's another reason why they don't, because foreign governments would know that we were in possession of alien technology.
Yeah, that's where my mind goes every time, which is unfortunate, because it doesn't help, doesn't give me any warm fuzzies.
Yeah, and and I won't go into this, but according to George Knapp, he's an investigative reporter, he's been reporting on the UFO phenomenon since Roswell.
Yeah.
George
Knapp has.
He hasn't.
Well, he's old. He's getting
Roswell. It's been several decades, and I assume he probably was not far behind.
He's about 70. I mean,
yeah, he
could be close.
Well, yeah, and Roswell is like 65 years old.
Yeah, he's got his little gray head and all these little things. Every time you see it, there he is.
Yeah, he does. He's been a big advocate. And, love or hate him, I think he's done a lot of great things for the UFO community. I don't know that he's always gone about it the right way, but that's just my opinion. I think he's done more good than anything else to get the truth spoken. And according to Grush, everything we think we know about the government's cover-up into UFOs and UAPs is true.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of it being confirmed now. So let me tell you something interesting that I learned about. Okay, when the Chinese air balloon Okay, that following weekend, we had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday 3 objects that were shot down. One over Canada, one over the U.S., and I'm trying to remember where the other one was.
When was that? When was that Illinois experimental weather balloon? I remember that. That was.
Yeah, but there was another. Well, actually, I don't know that one was an experimental air balloon. I think that might have gone out there. But the last footage that I've been able to find in the archives was the spokesperson, the media rep. His name escapes me all of a sudden for the White House. He was still saying we don't know what these things are.
Really?
Because some of it we couldn't identify. What was shot down over the frozen area and was recovered by NORAD. Well, NORAD has no responsibility to report to anyone, really. But at that time, they were still saying, we don't know what this was. So maybe one was an experimental air balloon and they were just shooting stuff down because they were a little trigger happy with stuff floating in their skies. And who can blame them, But they were only able to retrieve what they had shot over ice. And that was NORAD that, and they work for North America. So it's Canada and the U.S. They are not privy, or it's not that they're privy, that word is wrong. They are immune from Freedom of Information Act requests.
They're not obligated. That's what they're not.
Yeah, they're not obligated to respond to those.
There's no FOIA.
Right. Now there was a 4th incident that happened. It was 3 days after the spy balloon had been shot down. There were 8 to 9 anomalous objects, and they happened over Iceland.
Really?
Was it Iceland or was it Nova Scotia? You know what? I'm not clear on my facts still, but they were
someplace cold.
Yeah, it was someplace cold.
It was very cold.
Shot down, and they were. Well, no, I'm sorry. They weren't shot down. They were intercepted by whoever it was. It was someplace we had just jurisdiction, because it was our pilots that attempted to shoot them down. But it was a completely and I say shoot them down, intercept. There were a fighter group that was called to intercept these craft. I assume that means shot down. But all I know is that the interception was not successful. And
so it wasn't a balloon.
It wasn't a balloon, and there were 8 to 9 of these objects. Now, the Pentagon, Department of Defense, and NORAD have been contacted about that particular event, and neither one of them, I think the Air Force, Pentagon said, we had some fighters coming back that direction from a training drill, but other than that, no, we did not call any of our pilots to intercept anything foreign or not identified. But this has actually been confirmed by Christopher Mellon, who is that, and if he's able to confirm it, then I trust that it's the truth, because this guy knows everybody in Washington, and he had top secret clearances for, probably some of the highest clearances ever, before he retired. So he was able to confirm it's true, then I believe it was truth.
Yeah, I've always wondered about the guys with the clearances telling all this stuff, because I know the penalty, because I'm kind of in that game myself. And I would never like tell anything.
Yeah.
No, because you just don't. Like every everything
Yeah.
you sign and know is don't say anything, and it's just like
Yes.
people when people say that, I'm like how are you getting away with this unless there's whistleblower laws, which I know there are.
Right. Right.
So that
Well,
may be
and
it.
the whole thing is that the oversight committee, they want accountability, they want transparency, and they believe that this whole is going to cause an existential crisis in the United States. We're big boys and big girls, and most of us already know we've got stuff out there. We are already suspicious of our government concealing that. I think they say 55% of Americans believe. And that goes for, all religious backgrounds, all cultures. It's I always laugh because I say people ask themselves three questions. And this is kind of what has kept me going in this industry is people want to know, number one, is there a God? And I can't help you with that. I can't explain that to you. Your guess is as good as mine.
Yep.
And number two, what happens when you die, which is something as paranormalists we're always trying to strive to understand more and more of. And then they want to know, are we alone? And I think this is the beginning of disclosure.
I would trade the God question for is there a Bigfoot? Because I know the God answer.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Is there a Bigfoot?
I know the
we
Bigfoot answer, so I'm still on the God thing.
I'm good with the God thing. I'm pretty sure that's a lock in no uncertain terms, but
yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing is that cultures drive that, our spirituality and our religious beliefs and followings. So culture has a lot to do with that, the way we were raised, what we've been exposed to, things like that.
Something's doing something up there. I don't know what.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Somebody's
I
doing
don't think
something.
we're alone by any
No.
means. I don't think we're just wandering aimlessly through life, but there's a divine plan, but that's just me, and different people have different experiences, but as far as Bigfoot goes, yeah, I mean, come on, we see him all the time. People see him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's being videoed all the time now.
And it's all.
I think he's trying to come out for his cameo, and we just haven't let him, do his thing yet.
Do you think the "Are we alone?" question isn't so much "Are we alone?" is "Are we alone in intelligence and technology?" Because we're not alone statistically.
No.
Statistically, we're not alone. I mean, there's a microscopic something or other somewhere. I don't know where.
Oh, sure. Primordial ooze. They've got it on Mars. They found evidence of bacteria on Mars.
Yeah. The question is, are we alone in technology and spaceships and shit?
Yeah. And I truly believe we're not. And I still have yet to see one with my own eyes. But I truly believe we're not alone.
It's nearly as statistically impossible for us to be alone there as it is for us to be alone in general.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a couple notches.
Yeah.
Maybe 10%. I don't know. I'm doing math that I can't do math for shit. I'm just saying it can't be that far off from snot that moves to maybe can do something with this amount of stars there are in the sky. I even told my daughter this morning because sometimes I bust them out with a random fact. I'll be like, there's more stars in the sky than there are sands on the beaches on Earth. She's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Freaks me out when I see it. I'm like, oh my God.
And look at everything that this new telescope is bringing to us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're seeing into time. We're seeing into light years.
What was the grain of rice picture? You know what I'm talking about? It came out when they first launched it. The grain of rice picture.
Mm-hmm.
It was a picture that was the size of a grain of rice held at arm's length, and it was like 1 billion galaxies.
Wow.
Galaxies.
Wow.
It looked like stars in the Milky Way, but they were all galaxies.
I remember taking astronomy in college, and it was just an elective class, and I thought, okay, this will be cool. Turned out to be, the way our instructor went, he went with all chemistry, the star cycle and this, that, and the other. So we did a really good paper on, we had to do a paper on a celestial structure, or a structure that appeared to have celestial, calendars. So I did naturally on Stonehenge. This guy probably read more papers about Stonehenge than anything else. And so that got me it made me a little bit more of a believer in the ancient alien theories, although I'm not convinced. Because I don't have enough knowledge in geology and archaeology and all of that. So I have to trust what these people tell me. But, it's the how and the why. And, I flat out asked him, do you think we're alone? And he said, that is ridiculous to think we're alone. It's ridiculous because it's just statistically impossible.
Yeah, it is. It's to think that there's nothing else out there with all the shit that can happen.
Yeah.
Even just the chances of it happening from a purely agnostic, atheistic point of view, just the chances. There's more stars for it to happen 1 billion times over.
Yeah.
To the nth power. Even if you're just bouncing off asteroids with stuff in it for
Absolutely.
10 billion years. So you're with MUFON. Do you know Rich Hoffman? He's been on Ancient Aliens and History Channel.
I'm not a big follower of Ancient Aliens, although I was taken to see them for my birthday and I thought they were great. Rich Hoffman, no.
He's a big MUFON. He lives here in Huntsville, and he hired me for a job about 2010, 13 years ago, and I found out he was a MUFON guy and got into it from kind of like you did with writing a paper in the first grade. And he's on the History Channel all the time. But yeah, he was telling me about all the stuff like the Wright Pat Air Force Base. All that crazy. That's where they took. Isn't that where they took the Area 51 crap? Or wreckage? I said crap. It's a professional term. Area 50. The shit.
The case that always sticks out in my mind when I think about UFO stories is the one of the aerial school in Zimbabwe. Are you familiar with that one?
I am. I got a funny anecdote about that one. Go on.
Okay, no, I'd love to hear your anecdote.
No, you know the story.
Should I tell the listeners the story if they haven't heard it?
Yeah, tell the story first, because I got an anecdote.
Kind of a brief synopsis of the story. There is a great documentary called The Phenomenon. You can get it on Netflix or Hulu, one of those streaming, Amazon, one of the streaming platforms, and it's well worth it. That is a great one, Phenomenon, and then there's a new one that just came out called Encounters, and that is well worth a watch.
It is. That's on Netflix.
Interested in what's going on right now, yeah. But the aerial school story was a group of students in Zimbabwe at I think it was a private school. They were, they were young. They were 10, 9,
third grade.
10,
It's third grade,
11,
wasn't it?
12. Yeah, they were pretty young. I think you're right. I think it was about third grade. And they were on the playground, and a UAP allegedly landed in their schoolyard, and little beings got out. And these children had telepathic conversations with these beings, even though they were scared to death. And these beings told them, and we're talking about third graders here. They're using words like technological advances. That's not usually in a third grader's repertoire of, that's not on their word of the day dictionary.
It's not on their vocabularies for the week.
They got it from somewhere, and they're drawing pictures, and there's, I want to say it was something like 80 school children witnessed this. 80 school, it was a huge amount of school children. And to this day, they stand by their story. And the teachers believe them, the staff believes them, and by golly, they've got each other's backs. And they're not backing down. What they said they saw, they saw.
Yeah, It's consistent too. Everybody's got the same story, and they didn't
Yeah.
have time. They didn't ever have time to collaborate either.
Right. Right. I mean, they all ran inside and said, "Oh my God, guess what we just saw?" Yeah. I mean, come on. In third graders' imaginations, they're talking about gray aliens that people like Betty and Barney Hill saw.
Hmm.
They had no knowledge of that sort of thing. So,
Yeah. What I think I made up kind of if I was making a comic strip about these kind of
yes.
things.
Yes.
Do you know how like there's like a movie trope to where like a bad guy will steal a car and like wreck it and like commit a crime in front of a kid, and the kid will be like, "You're not supposed to do that." He's like, "Stay in school, kid," and drive away and try to pretend he's Santa Claus or something like
That's
the Kevin
funny.
Costner movie, like the Kevin Costner movie when he has that kid hostage, but he friends him, and so he's like telling the kid how to trick or treat, like teaching him life lessons.
Yeah.
And like he's running from the cops trying to fix his car. What are you doing, mister? Stay in school, and tossing him like a
That's
piece of candy. That's
so
like
funny.
they land. It's like the interstellar like thieves or something. They're trying to get their spaceship cranked. Like, what are y'all doing? Like little Zimbabwe. What are you doing? Not Zimbabweans. How do Zimbabweans talk? I don't know. Little Nigerian children. But like it's like, you're ruining your planet, kid. You're ruining your planet. And he drives away.
That's basically what they told him. Yeah, technology's gonna fuck you up.
You're ruining your planet, kid. Stay in school.
Yeah.
And he drives away. I was like, what is that? Was that Santa?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it sounds like. They landed like, oh, what are you? They're all
Like,
walking.
oh crap, man! Couldn't you have landed this someplace better?
Like, fuck kids, man. Fuck kids.
I was like, we're gonna throw them something. Nobody's ever gonna believe them. And here they are, 20 years later. I think it's been like 20 years later, and they're still telling their stories.
Those one piece of candy.
Yeah.
Stay in school, kids. You're ruining your planet.
Bad.
You're ruining your planet. Just tell them something.
But it's things like that, and then I look at things that are really kind of scary. Things that we're still so unsure. There's so much unknown about, like AI technology, and I just think, is this what they're talking about? Or are they talking about like nuclear war? What? And there have been an increased number of sightings in Ukraine.
I don't doubt it. They're probably really interested in that.
There's a lot of potential for nuclear meltdown at their power plants, being cut off from power for long periods of time, and the threat of potential nuclear attacks, by Russia. And they're watching that area. And, I don't know if you saw Encounters, you would know about the Fukushima meltdown. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that they had so many UFO encounters, and they're videoed. But as that was melting down and spreading nuclear waste and radiation from that tsunami and that earthquake, they were being watched. They were being watched.
I didn't finish but one episode of that.
Oh, you need to go back and finish it.
I didn't know there was a Fukushima episode.
Yes. That's the very last one, the episode of Fukushima. They called them angels. That's what they called them. They were calling them angels.
Wait,
but
maybe I did see it. That sounds familiar. It's one of those kind of shows. Like, I love shows like that. Like, absolutely love them. But they'll put me to sleep. They'll put me to sleep quick.
Yeah. It's like you've already taken your Ambien for the night, and you're kind of.
It's like my favorite genre of music is stand-up comedy. But if I listen to stand-up comedy and I'm sleepy, I'm out.
Yeah.
I watch Good Eats with Alton Brown, Mythbusters, a lot of that Jack Osborne stuff, his new little shows. And I watch like stuff like Encounters and Unsolved Mysteries and Unexplained. And it 5 minutes. Most interesting stuff in the universe, and I'm just gone. I don't know. I guess it's because I'm focusing on it. It's like I'm counting sheep.
Well, you were talking about Unsolved Mysteries. Did you watch this last season? Do you remember the episode on Paranormal Rangers?
Yeah, that's the only one I watch.
Okay.
There's one about a ghost in the attic, but the Paranormal Rangers is my favorite one.
Yeah. Those gentlemen are great. I had opportunity to spend a weekend with them and some other MUFON people of different positions. And so we got to visit quite a bit, and they provided a couple presentations. And I actually have some, I don't know if if we're on ufology, you want to keep talking about that. There's a little bit I can share with you on one of those cases that I think you might find very interesting.
Go for it. Yeah, we can talk. We talk about ghosts all the time, but ufology is few and far between since I started reading crazies in it. But
well, I'm so glad that we're in such a crazy age, because we're going to know a lot more in 2 years. 2 years, we're probably not going to be able to bleach our brains, to not know stuff. But so let me tell you, the episode of Paranormal Rangers on Unsolved Mysteries, they talked about the woman who was followed by the orb in her car. And the story didn't actually end there. We know that she's driving in her car. This is across Navajo land. And she's heading home. And this small orb actually was keeping speed with the car. It hit her in the back of the car on the back passenger door. And then it flew over and hit the front driver's side door. And she developed immediately this intense headache, the worst headache she'd ever had in her life, immediately following that last impact. Well, if you draw a line through the car where that impacted, it would have gone straight through her body. If there was any type of energetic connection or, a focused amount of radiation or infrared or whatever, it would have gone straight through her head. And but when she actually arrived, and we're going to go from ufology to a little bit of experiencers stuff here, abduction type stuff more, and which I've worked a couple of those as well. The woman pulled up to her driveway, and there was a rabbit sitting where she pulled her car in. She said it was about 3 feet tall, and she looked at it and she said, "Oh no, you ain't got me. I know what you're up to, mister." She said she jumped out of the car and she ran inside. Well, if people are familiar with abduction stories, they were actually able to go back and find traces of something that had indented the sediment that looked like a big rabbit's foot. And they couldn't see it during the day. They actually had to go back at night and take their flashlights and just drop their flashlights on the ground. And you could see it exactly where she said it was standing and exactly where it went. That it had these like impressions into the actual ground surface.
Really?
Yeah. And that is not an uncommon sighting for abductees, or what we now call experiencers, to encounter are these rabbits. And I actually even had one experiencer tell me one time he was only about 6 years old, and he was in the chicken coop when one came in. And when it came in, it had a big bow around its neck like the Easter bunny. And he went on to tell me that as it turned, he could see it morph into more of a reptilian structure. A reptilian being.
A rabbit.
A rabbit. And he said that he felt so alone, but thankfully MUFON has great resources for people that are experiencers where they can, get support groups and things like that. And he said rabbits are very common. They're almost as common as, I don't know if you've heard the white owls.
I heard the owls.
People talk about the white owls. And I have, in my study of the paranormal, I have, because this is my full-time job, Of course, I don't charge for investigations by any means, but we do that other ways through, merch sales and all that. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty scary what some people see. I've heard people talk to me about trolls that have been on the edges of the woods, or owls that were on the ground, but they were kind of tall and they had strange looking faces. So, the stories of animals, they're always white for some reason.
Yeah.
They're always white. And a paranormal case, somebody who thinks they're being haunted, they may not come forward and say, we think, excuse me, we think this is an extraterrestrial case. Instead, they will come forward and say, I think I'm being haunted, and this is what I'm seeing. And it's pretty easy to pick up when they start talking about those types of things. My mind immediately goes to, how often are you seeing craft?
Yeah. Why would they pick rabbits though? Do they think humans just like rabbits?
I don't know. Yeah. Why
Is
pick
it
owls?
Is it like
know?
is it like a this is the
I think they're
stupidest
trying to
stuff I
appear
come up with.
non-threatening.
Yeah, this is the stupidest thing my mind goes. Is it rabbit like, you know how when rabbits just chilling, their ears go down? I mean, but so is it
Yeah.
like
The ones that I've heard described, they're more like the white hair with the ears
Yeah.
that come up.
I mean, is it like a humanized rabbit that's sitting up like this with its ears up?
They're
Like
saying that the eyes are misshapen on these rabbits.
Like the concrete ones you see at the botanical gardens and at those
Yeah.
little concrete stores on the side of the highway? You get the rabbit you put in the garden and it's standing up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's more of what people are reporting.
I used to launch bottle rockets off one of those rabbits.
Oh,
Called it. I had a big 6-foot piece of PVC pipe.
Rabbits. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
I mistook that for use to launch them off for real rabbits. I'm like,
No, concrete rabbits. It was about it was probably about the size of what you're talking about. I called it the rab can. It's about waist high. Put this piece of, I had this big piece of PVC pipe about that big around. It stuck right between its ears.
It worked, right?
The rab can. That's crazy because you got the. I just heard the other night. Who was I talking to? God. It doesn't
We
matter.
read together. I know.
It's. I can't remember who I. Oh my Jesus! It doesn't matter. But he said that a kid reported when he was younger seeing Santa Claus by the garbage cans when he took the trash out, and he looked up and there was a craft in the sky right next to him.
Yeah.
Who told me that?
I think the whole purpose of the shape-shifting is to present themselves as something non-threatening. It's very similar to what we see in like malevolent energies. They'll gain your trust by presenting as something non-threatening, and they kind of miss the mark every time. It's like you kind of can tell that's mama not talking to you. You're not really sure what's off or what's different. And it's kind of the same with these experiencers. They don't know what's off about this owl or what's off about this rabbit. But, a 3-foot rabbit is a crazy thing anyhow. But a 3-foot rabbit with a bow on, white rabbit staring at you with his ears pointed up, that's extraordinarily odd.
That's got me feeling creepy. It reminds me of
suddenly feeling creepy. Well, it's creepy stuff.
I'm just picturing being in a chicken coop and a white rabbit walk in like
yeah, at his age.
6 years old.
Yeah.
Knowing like, is this the Easter Bunny? And I'm picturing Roger from American Dad for some reason. Walking in dressed up in a costume.
Yeah. Yeah. He just it's garden for life. He said it's these people that are experiencers, they really are they're living with PTSD.
Mm-hmm. I had to stop getting them on my show because I felt like I was exploiting them, and it didn't feel right. I had to stop it. That's why I said I hadn't done a UFO show in a while. It's not that I don't love the subject, but if it's people like you who are MUFON, I look for MUFON a lot because they can talk about it like it's a thing. But anybody who says I was abducted, like tell my story, I'm like, I don't want to hear your story.
Well, you also have to look at it this way: if they're telling their story, they're brave enough to tell it because they know that there are other people out there
Yeah.
that need to hear it.
I had more than one that was not a UFO story. They were just had a bad childhood and they had repressed memories, and I didn't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no repressed memories here. Might have a few drunken ones, but
No,
no repressed here.
it was basically they were somebody was inappropriate with them as a kid, and their brain changed it to an alien abduction.
That's tragic. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be a downer. I didn't mean to
Oh
be a
no,
downer.
no.
I mean, you
That's-
cut out anything you feel like is necessary, but
Oh, this
you know, it's just these little things that I've learned on
I don't
and
edit.
off.
I don't edit anything except for maybe the end of the front. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what these podcasts are about. Where are you at on like CE5s?
I have never done one. I've been
Did you know I
invited
have?
to. Huh? Have you?
That there's a friend of mine named Les Durant. You may have heard of him. He's a big CE5 guy,
Uh-huh.
and he's basically like introduce yourself. But I'm not going to go out. It's outside and stare at the sky. But every time I've done it, something will happen.
Yeah.
And the other night I got one, and it was not a shooting star.
Yeah.
It was this way, and it was like half a second, and it wasn't a burnout like a shooting star. It was a flash, because I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey guys, if you're there, show yourself. Hey guys, if you're there, give me a sign." I did it like 10 times, and sure enough, corner of my eye, like I saw it. Like, well, that's kind of crazy.
I think,
But-
you know, we've been able to tell that there are certain people, they just put that intention out there and they just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, they'll see stuff like floating golf balls. And
Yeah.
it's not a satellite. It'll be brighter than a satellite.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're just going to see more and more. I don't think the government's going to have a choice but to disclose more information than they're willing to disclose, because I don't believe that whoever is behind these anomalies that we're seeing is going to allow our government or other governments to keep it quiet. I mean, we can't be so arrogant to think they're just going to land on the White House lawn. This is a big world, and they could land anywhere.
It's like the Holy
So,
Grail.
yeah.
Everybody's wanting that White House lawn landing.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that. I swear to God. It's
Yeah.
like, you think we'll ever get the White House lawn?
They might. I mean, they've been discovered over the White House before,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't be unusual. But it still is a very big country, or it's a very big world, and there are many countries here. And you know, who knows? Who knows?
Eventually, they're going to habituate with a couple of people, and they're going to become friends with them,
Yeah.
and kind of just get caught that way, expose themselves
Yeah.
that way.
Who knows? Who knows?
I really wish something would happen. I need some kind of affirmation.
Well, you know, I've got it just by.
I don't want to
what
be
the
a slave in a
government
salt
tells me
mine
on.
somewhere, but
Yeah, you just have to, you know, like I said, I don't subscribe to any one particular news station, so I just want to put that out there. I'm pretty good about getting my data from multitudes of sources and multitudes of views. But News Nation has been carrying a lot of the information that's coming forward on the UAPs. So I say, you know, find them on YouTube, and I mean, I check in every day to see what the news is across all news sources on
News
UAPs.
Nation.
News Nation. Yeah, they're a more conservative newscaster, so they're not one that I'll watch regularly. You know, I'll just get segments, you know, of stuff from them. But now they're starting to release more on some of the other what they refer to as mainstream media, the Post, ABC, NBC.
Mm-hmm.
You're just getting little, because I mean, these things are not being done in the dark. They are coming, you know, they're having congressional hearings, and honestly, I think it should be on every news outlet everywhere, and they should be screaming from the tops of their lungs, "We're not alone, people."
I don't know how it's not a bigger deal, because I was enthralled.
I think because it is such a slow drip.
It is, and it's enough to make you forget about it.
Yes. You forget about it for a while, and then you come back. You forget about it for a while, you come back.
I don't think any kind of big reveal.
Huh?
Yeah. I don't think any kind of big reveal is going to be ignored.
Right.
It'll just be funny to see how we get used to it. Like 6 months later, no one cares. It's an alien.
Yeah. It'll be normal fodder for conversation. The space alien that I'm dating on the side.
Yeah. They're going to end up they're going to put them on welfare, making them voters.
Yeah, there you go.
That's I think along those same lines, I think the Bigfoot thing will probably come out too.
Well, we actually did a show on Bigfoot a couple weeks ago, and Mary Jo, my partner and my mother, but my partner in crime, my podcast co-host on Terrell Paranormal Talk. Y'all check that out. TerrellParanormalTalk.com. And we have a new season that is going up right now as we speak. We released a new something, and it's all things supernatural, all things paranormal. And we try to address them not as weirdness, but it's just stuff we don't understand yet. And we work real hard to do our research, but she was able to bring some stuff to light for me for Bigfoot that I never knew about. And you're starting to see more and more video. I've seen videos of what appears to be them interacting with people's pet dogs in the backyard, throwing them food, things like that, and just almost getting to become friends with them because the dogs aren't barking at them.
There's a lot more thermal lately too.
Bigfoot. That's Bruce Bigfoot. Yeah.
A lot more thermal. I didn't know until I started hanging out with actual researchers that there was good video, few and far between, but I was like, they showed it to me, and I'm like, where the hell has this been? Like, we just don't release it because nobody ever believes it.
Yeah.
You people.
Are you, let me ask you this, do you believe that they are interdimensional?
Yeah, something or other like that. I think they got powers.
It almost seems they would have to be. So I have a friend, and this is a second person story, but I don't know if you'd like to hear it.
Tell it.
I have a friend, she was out at, this woman is pretty credible. She's the former sheriff's deputy. She's got some cred. She's got some bona fides. And anyhow, she told me she was out at an area where they believe the veil is kind of thin, kind of one of these areas of these places of high strangeness, so to speak. And she said that they could hear in the distance what sounded like two large animals having a conversation across the woods. And then she said suddenly there was this flash, a green light, and crickets, silence after that. And she turned to her friend that witnessed it with her, and she said, did we just see a portal open and them disappear?
Mm-hmm.
And, I take her at her word. I believe she's being honest. I don't believe that she'd embellish. So who knows?
She heard the samurai speak and saw a portal open.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if that helps you. Is there anything I can answer for you, or do you have any? I mean, if like I said, if I can't answer it for you, I'll see if I can find out, or I can tell you where you can get it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Bigfoot woo. It's to me. I don't know if it's because I'm not smart like other people. I'm like Forrest Gump.
I'm sure you're plenty smart.
That's what I feel like. But I don't have to have this ensconced scientific evidence to believe in something. Maybe I'm just
circumstantial evidence is.
I'm okay with just being happy with imagining something's real.
Well, they say that the paranormal and the supernatural are really kind of the way that we heal ourselves from the disappointment of learning that Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy aren't real.
Wait.
It's almost just our way as adults to step into a realm of possibilities. Only those possibilities may actually have a grain of truth behind them. And we're seeing more and more as technology changes, we're going to have so many more answers. Just, like I said, the next 2 years, because they're equating so much of actual paranormal, like ghost sightings and poltergeist activity and things like that, along with UFO sightings. So I don't think that these things are one and the same, essentially, but I think that they come through in a similar fashion, if that makes sense.
They use similar technology kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
I
called
think
it
there's
I
some
called it
link.
the eye portal.
Yeah. There's just like an interstellar freeway where people are playing shoots and ladders with dimensions.
And to me, like what I was getting at is it makes for them not to be a monkey that's somehow good to hide, good at hide and seek. It makes more sense if they could clip in and out.
Yeah.
That they could not be there and sense you and can blur the cameras and mess with your mind. It makes more sense to me. It's either that or they're not real. To me, the monkey thing is the least, even though it'd be the most scientifically logical thing. Lost mountain gorilla.
Right.
I think that's the least likely.
Least likely.
Plausible, because we would have found them by now. I hate to say it. We would have found a hidden ape in North America.
Yeah.
Unless those caves are just that cool.
Do
that
Bigfoot
big.
bury their dead?
Do
they believe that Bigfoot bury their dead?
I think it's like a Force Ghost kind of thing.
I get you.
Because there would be.
That's why we're not finding them.
They'd be something. We'd have had one by now.
Yeah.
But I don't think they'd bury them. I mean, if one died, I think it would be maybe like Thanos just blow away. I don't know. I just don't know what they would dig it up deep enough for nobody to ever find one.
Yeah. You think eventually somebody's dog would, come back with a femur or something.
Yeah. The body thing that's like the main argument.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to believe. Like I post at least once, about maybe 5 days a week, a clip of a good Bigfoot story. But everybody's like, stop posting stories and post real shit. I'm real evidence. I'm like, what do you want?
But it's the accumulation of stories that you have to take them seriously.
That's what got me.
People who don't know each other and they're telling the same stories. That says something.
I've said that before. Old people who can't use the internet telling the same exact accounts.
Yeah.
From 10,000 miles away.
Yeah.
See, when I first started this podcast, I was like okay with Bigfoot not existing. I liked the idea of it. And then I started talking to people. I'm like, holy shit, that's just real.
Yeah.
It hit me. I'm like, that's it. I went to work today after I had like the flip. I was like looking around, like, what are we doing here, guys? Why are we at work?
There are so many bigger things out there.
Like there is a Bigfoot in Minnesota and we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
After hearing I think it was like 3 accounts, the same, 50, 60, 70-year-old men talk about the same behavior. Using almost the same terminology. Like the cloaking and the portals and the throwing of the rocks. Did you hear that you didn't hear my intro, but in my intro it gets real quiet, and then all of a sudden it's got a witness from Illinois, Indiana. He said barn owls don't typically throw rocks. Yes, that's going to be on my T-shirt one day. Barn owls don't typically.
I like that. I know.
And
Tim Burchett was talking about he's going to create a shirt that says more people believe in UFOs than they believe in Congress.
Yep.
The Representative Burchett, he's trying to bring the truth.
We need people like him.
Yeah, we do. And we've got some. And they need to keep throwing a fit until they get the information we want. And you know what? As Americans, we own our government. We own Congress. We own the executive branch. We pay them. We have a right to know. And we cannot, as consumers of this wonderful democracy that we have, we cannot let them pull the wool over our eyes. We have to continue to speak up. We've got to keep calling our congressmen. We've got to keep letting them know, hey, this is important. This is important. And you've got the power to get it. Go get it.
It'd be really cool for that watershed moment of full disclosure.
Yeah.
To happen pretty soon.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to have a big breaking moment. I think it's going to be a slow lull into normalcy for us.
I mean, how do you think they would like eventually make it to where it was 100% known?
I don't know that they ever will. Like I said, I think it's going to take whoever's out there visiting us a chance to land somewhere and talk to somebody important somewhere around the world.
Them do it, yeah. They may not even want to. We may have to reach a certain point.
I think that there are four different species that are commonly reported to us. Those people who work on the experience or resource team. I'm not a member of that, although I've encountered a few experiencers.
About the 4 kinds of aliens?
The 4 kinds of aliens.
Yeah, okay.
And it seems that, and I forgot where I was going with this. I'm so sorry. But it appears that we have at least one group that is looking out for us. But I feel like, and I think that's probably the gray beans, and probably one of the second most reported groups is the, I don't remember exactly what they call them, but they're kind of a Scandinavian looking, tall, pale.
Norse. Call them Norse.
Norse.
The whites.
Okay.
The whites from
the
Range 57.
Yes, you're familiar with that.
The ghost horse. Yeah. Oh, I go back to that all the time.
Oh, the ghost horse. Oh no, I was thinking something different. Okay.
Well, it's that dude. The nerdy guy that looks like Fat Bob Lazar. Tells about the whites. The tall whites.
There's an older man that had some experiences when he was in the army. No, we're thinking about 2 totally different things.
Are we? What?
Yeah, we are.
Oh. You know who I'm talking about, though, don't you?
No, I don't think so. I don't watch a lot of paranormal TV.
Hang on. This is hang on. We have to find this out. Because it was on one of my favorite, the last podcast on the left did an entire thing.
Yeah.
And it was it's an army guy. It was the tall whites.
Yes, that's him. Yeah, we are talking about the same thing.
I always call he's like
allegedly.
Mm-hmm. And he
worked with them. Yeah. Yeah.
What is his name?
We are thinking about the same thing. Yes.
Yeah. It has to, I won't say it had to be but there's a documentary on like Tubi.
Yes, I've seen it.
What's his name? Come on. Give me his names.
I don't remember, but he's an older man. And he stands by a story.
But that was the one where the it was the ghost horse of range 7 or something.
Yes.
And it was one of the big tall whites that would come.
Yes.
He ended up out there, and they had that wand that floated around and hit him with it.
Yep.
And it would protect all the old people. Yeah.
I think that they partially want to protect us. So I think they want to protect us from ourselves. I do think we're going to get empathy and possibly some tools to deal with climate change, I hope, and to deal with, some of the scary things that are happening, like the threat of nuclear war.
Yeah.
And
I'm hoping they're ending that. I'm hoping they're kind of squashing it because it hadn't happened.
Yeah.
His name was Charles Hall.
Charles Hall. Okay.
Yep.
It's been a while since I've seen that, but
you need to check out last podcast on the left. I think it's episode.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them.
Yeah. It's episode 415. It's a whole thing about the tall whites.
Okay,
good.
I'm gonna write that down.
They basically watched the thing on Tubi and did a review on it, but they're really funny about it.
Yeah. I don't listen to them as much as I should.
Have you heard their Jim Jones series?
I have not, but I would be very interested in hearing that.
The Jim Jones, the tall whites, the JFK, and there's a couple more. But if anytime I tell anybody about a podcast, I mean, you started episode 300 of last podcast on the left and listen to the Jim Jones series, and that will hook you, and you'll be like, "Holy shit! I didn't know anything about those." Like, it is incredible. It goes so much deeper than you thought.
Huh.
They shot a monkey in the head in Ghana.
Why?
Or wherever that was that Jim Jones happened.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, his name was Mr.
It wasn't Ghana, but it wasn't far from there.
Yeah, it was Papua New Guinea. No.
No. Give me a second. I'll tell you exactly where it was. But yeah.
But it was Guyana. That's right.
Yes, thank you. It's similar to Ghana, but it's not far removed from there.
Nope.
But
there was
friends that moved to Ghana, as a matter of fact.
It was just not the same place. But they had a monkey in tow, a chimp named Mr. Muggs. And before they all went out, they popped him in the head with a 45.
You know what? I think I remember hearing about that now. Yeah, I do remember hearing about that. He went down with all of them.
R.I.P. Mr. Muggs. Him and Harambe chilling.
Huh.
And
interesting. Okay, yeah, I'll check that out. That sounds like my kind of thing. But I was real intrigued by the pale ones that he talked about. Down on the range. The ghost horse. You're right. That's how it started, was with the ghost horse.
Yep.
And everybody was terrified of it.
He went out there and it walked up to him.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that I would be that brave, but that some people have had those experiences and they have chosen to come forward at the risk of ridicule and at the risk of being chastised until they're crazy. They stand by their stories. I've got a lot of it takes a lot of gumption.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of, to speak power to truth, sometimes it takes a lot of not being popular.
I think there's a lot of reason the guys who have real experiences, no matter what the paranormal genre, they seem kind of pushy and out there. It's because they saw it and they're like, "You gotta believe me," and it's just like 20 years of that.
Yeah,
they're just pulling their own hair
want
out.
The public to know. They feel like it's information that we, as people who walk through this world full of oblivion, which is what I had done up until the previous 10 years, and then oblivion smacked me in the face with all this. I never chose this to be my profession.
Yeah.
But here it is.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make podcasting my profession. And if it has to be this kind, I'm okay with it. Because I can talk about it all day.
Yeah.
Till my throat hurts, i.e. right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm good. I don't know what else I can tell you unless there's anything else you want to know about.
I was going to tell you that I'm like, when you said the people that see it, you don't know how brave you would be. I've been mentally preparing for a Bigfoot sighting.
Yeah.
Because I know like a half a dozen hotbeds I can go and maybe have something happen.
Yeah.
And so I've been like making myself thinking like ahead of time, like what would happen if you just one walked out? Are you going to run? Whew, no. Deal with it. Let the shivers.
Yeah.
I thought one happened to me about a month ago, like a real one, like 100%. And it turned out to be a false alarm, but there was a 30-second window where it was Schrodinger's Bigfoot. And I had to like prepare myself. I faced it. I'm proud of myself. I turned around, I faced it. I was ready to go close to it. Turned out to be nothing. But
you have that experience now and you know what your next step would be. That's good, because the first time I had paranormal encounters up until that point. I had a disembodied voice that engaged me. I actually had a spirit engage me for about 20 minutes.
20 minutes? That's a long time.
It is a very long time. It was at the Hill House in Mineral Wells.
Okay.
It's been featured. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've spent quite a bit of time up there, as a matter of fact. Kathy and Sunny, they are good people. And that house is, you say the veil is thin. There is no fucking veil there. There isn't. There is no veil there.
You walk in, it's just a running water of ghosts.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, there's a clip on my YouTube channel of it's about 2 minutes long, and it's nothing but disembodied voices that I heard with my own ears at that house in one night.
One was just chasing you around?
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah.
I was there by myself. I was alone. I was out of investigator mode and I was relaxing. I wasn't going to sleep that night. I had already determined that I wasn't going to sleep that night. And if I needed to have something to do, I got plenty of computer work to do. And I was working on my year-end financials. And Joshua, the 6-year-old child that is there, walked up to me and said, "Will you please play?" And I just happened to have my documentation recorder still running my arm.
Was he there?
I did not physically see him. No.
Okay. So you say he was there. He's the spirit. He's the spirit.
Yes.
I thought you meant like there was a kid there hanging out. What the fuck?
No. Well, I mean,
so he's a ghost kid.
I could not see him, but his voice was there beside me.
He's a ghost kid.
Okay. And then I heard running children's footsteps on the hardwood floor running away from me. And that was when I finally said, "Brenda, you can panic or you can turn around and you can go document this." And I did. That's what I did. I documented it. I documented the whole thing. The minute before he spoke to me, you can see him coming down the stairway behind me. You can see the banister moving as if somebody's walking down the staircase.
Wow.
And then turned and stepped right into my room, asked me if, "Will I please play?" That's exactly what he said. I know what he said when he said it. And then he called me mommy twice. Got that recorded. You can hear it. There were also some other spirits that were engaging at me at that time. So for whatever reason, that little window of time was just very, very active.
Is this on your Terrell, paranormaltalk.com?
It is on Terrell Ghost YouTube. I don't have everything up yet, so it's kind of thin. Our YouTube page is pretty thin, but and just FYI, I'm looking for someone up in the Dallas and Kaufman area, like Dallas County, Kaufman area. I'm looking for a social media expert who wants to be involved with us, because we have so much stuff to put up. But I have it's a short little video of that night and the stuff I got that night that was actual voices in the room. There were actual voices in the room, and not all of it is up there. There was at one point I heard them say, when I say them, this was like a minute segment of audio where I got 3 distinct voices, and you could hear on this side. Now at the time I just heard the whispers, but when I just came out, I amplified it just a little bit. We make very few, if any, modifications to our EVPs because we want them to be as true as they possibly can be. Just slight enhancements, just maybe so you can hear them a little bit better.
You don't try to blow them out and make people hear what you want to hear.
No, God, no, absolutely not. Where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in that? Because you're only lying to yourself. And then when you do get that sweet piece of evidence, like the things that I got that night, people don't believe it. So you want, we only want the truest stuff out there. The truest stuff out there. Now we do the ghost walk. We'll use the spirit box and we'll use like little snippets of words and stuff like that. But on investigation, we do it completely differently. Because we're having fun for guests. Because we do the Terrell Ghost Walk during the warmer seasons, like March through November usually, and then we do the we take the spirit box in places, and people have fun with snippets that sound like their name. but normally
Yeah.
that doesn't hold for us in an investigation field. We've got to have something a little bit more of substance. We have some quality checks that we put them through.
Yeah,
We're very serious about EVP because EVP is the most abundant and compelling evidence you're going to get if you don't fuck it up.
that's why I like that's why I like having ghost hunters on, because they always have them.
Yeah, we've got some great ones. So yeah, go to our YouTube channel, and yeah, there's a segment on audible voice phenomenon.
Oh, I'm already there.
You're already there.
Kidding
Yeah,
me?
you can
Oh,
check
yeah.
it out.
It's Brenda
But at
Newby,
one-
Terrell Ghosts.
What's that?
I said it's Brenda Newby, Terrell Ghosts.
Mm-hmm. Is
I
that
was
what
looking
it
at
is?
Terrell Ghost only has like one video.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, there's like two of them. But I found your disembodied child at Hill House.
Yeah.
I have to listen to it in a minute. I'm gonna listen
Yeah,
to it.
that young man engaged me, and it was bittersweet because it was very tragic. I mean, he called me mommy. But at one point there was an EVP. I heard 3 voices. It was 2 male voices, and it was Joshua's voice. And I say EVP. It wasn't really an EVP. It was audible, although I didn't understand at the time. Couldn't quite make out what they're saying. But you hear the whispering on this side that I heard, and it says there were several. I got "Who's That Fat Girl?" I've got oh yeah, this one was one of the guys says no, 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 and then he whispers it, and then you hear Joshua say, "I'm here, I'm right here," and then you hear the third voice say, "Let's cut her up," and this maniacal laugh. And it's I don't know if it's on that one or not, but it's yet another clip that we get from the Hill House. They're very common to get them there.
Yeah, it's those. If you're an asshole in that real life, you're an asshole in the afterlife.
That's true.
I like that theory. Everybody's like, not everything's a demon.
That's right.
Sometimes it's just
jerks up there.
Sometimes they're just a dead a-hole.
Yeah.
All right, Brenda, I think we're going to wrap it up here. I've held you for a really long time, and
well, I've enjoyed every minute of it. So
I've turned into this little kid on the floor listening to these stories, and that's what happens.
Well, we all enjoyed them, don't we? That's why we do this.
It's like when I'm begging the universe to let me do this for a living. Come on.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I'm good at. Listening to stories and
stories
and drinking coffee. It's the only thing I can do.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, there's lots of stories out there, so you will have no shortage finding them.
Yeah, and people will talk.
I wish you the best, and you're going to have to share some of your cryptid stories with us, some of your Bigfoot stories with us on Terrell Paranormal Talk soon.
Yeah, I'll come talk. I mean, I haven't really had a real one yet, but I've heard a lot of accounts, and just the morphing into the fact that this is what I want to do is crazy enough.
Well, I'm sure you have a lot of knowledge.
Yeah,
that you can share.
A lot of common things that I've heard. It's like, wait, why does everybody keep saying that?
Mm-hmm. There's usually a reason behind it, right?
Mm-hmm. And for some reason, people like fairies.
Yeah, well, I've got my own interpretation of what I think that might be.
It's a bug.
They're not fairies, but
smack it. It's a mosquito, dog. You're in Texas.
Like a mosquito. Damn it.
That is a mosquito that bred with a lightning bug, and you need to kill it.
I can see myself. We had one of those racket clubs.
Yeah, those things are fun.
I'd be like chasing that thing around the house. Zap. Go away, you little monster. Well, thank you so much, Bobby. I appreciate your hospitality and you giving me a chance to plug myself and our team. And make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Oh yeah, hit it.
Go on over and hit the subscribe button on Terrell Paranormal Talk, and maybe I'm sure you're going to see the reciprocal of this podcast on mine.
Oh yeah, I'll make sure to put that in the description as well.
Okay, appreciate that.
All right, let's play my intro as an outro. Thank you, Brenda, for being on again. Been amazing. Watch out for aliens.
I never didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never believed in it, I didn't believe in it. I never given it any thought.
They kept wood knocking back and forth to each other, and it was in a pattern.
Barn owls don't typically throw rocks.
I come across these tracks.
Sasquatch is still not on my mind.